My name is Jordan. I am 17 years old. And I want to tell you about the afternoon my friends and I used a random coordinates app to find something to do in Seattle. We ended up at a beach pier we had been to dozens of times. And what we found lodged in the rocks under that pier changed something in me permanently. Subscribe before we get into this. Drop a comment telling me where you are right now. Because I have two stories tonight about ordinary days that turned into something nobody was prepared for. Let me start with mine. It was the summer of 2020. Seattle was quiet in a way it had never been before. The pandemic had emptied out the usual places and filled everyone with a low-grade restlessness that built over weeks into something harder to manage. A group of us had been using an app called Randonautica. The idea is simple. You tell it a geographic area, and it generates random GPS coordinates. You drive to those coordinates and see what you find. It is supposed to break your routine and take you somewhere unexpected. You are supposed to find something interesting or unusual, or at minimum, different from your couch. We set the radius to cover the city of Seattle and hit generate. The first coordinate it gave us was Alki Beach Pier. We all looked at each other. The pier was practically in our backyard. We had grown up there, swimming, fishing, walking out over the water on summer afternoons, eating at the restaurants on the strip nearby. It was not mysterious. It was not unfamiliar. It was just the pier, the same pier. It had always been the same pier. We had visited so many times we could have drawn a map of it from memory. We almost did not go. It felt too ordinary. The whole point of the app was to find something you would not have found otherwise. And the pier was somewhere we had found many times before without any help. But the day was nice and we had nothing else to do. And driving somewhere familiar was better than sitting in the same apartment for another afternoon. So we went. When we arrived, the beach was almost empty. That was not entirely unusual for 2020. Public spaces had a different quality that summer. People were cautious and the usual crowds had thinned. But the emptiness still gave the place a particular feeling. Like the pier existed in a separate space from the rest of the city. Like we had it entirely to ourselves and the seagulls in the gray water. The smell hit me before we had been there 5 minutes. I want to describe this carefully because it matters. Alki Beach has a specific smell that I have known since I was a child. Salt water and algae, and the particular industrial organic note that comes from being near a working port. Old wood and bird droppings and the low mineral smell of cold water. I had grown up with that smell and associated it with good things. Summer afternoons, family trips, lazy days with nothing in particular to do. What I was smelling now was not that. It was underneath the familiar smell, lower and more insistent, and it was wrong in a way that I could not immediately categorize, but that my body responded to before my brain caught up. Something rotten in a way that was different from the smell of seaweed drying on rocks or old fish. Something specific and organic and deeply unpleasant in a way I had not encountered before. I was trying to identify it when my friend called out from the pier railing that there was something down in the rocks. We all leaned over to look. Wedged between two large rocks close to the waterline, where the tide had recently pulled back to expose the lower structure of the pier, was a piece of luggage. A suitcase, medium-sized dark colors sitting at an angle in the gap between the rocks with one corner submerged in the shallow water that remained in the crevices after the tide went out. It looked completely out of place. That is the most precise description I can give. A suitcase belongs in an airport, a hotel room, the back of a car on a road trip. It does not belong in the rocks below a pier at low tide. The wrongness of it was visual before it was anything else. We joked about it the way teenagers joke. Someone said it had probably washed off a ferry. Someone said it was probably full of money. Someone said it was probably drugs. We got the camera out and someone dared someone else to go down and open it. I was the one who climbed down. The rocks were slick from the receding tide and I had to move carefully to avoid slipping. Each step required attention, and I was looking at my feet more than at the suitcase as I made my way toward it. The smell got worse with every few feet of descent. By the time I was close enough to crouch next to the suitcase, I knew with certainty that the smell was coming from inside it. I looked at the suitcase up close. It was sealed, zipper closed all the way around. Standard luggage. Nothing externally unusual except that it had been wedged into rocks beneath a pier and smelled like something had been inside it for a long time in the heat. My friends were above me calling down. The camera was rolling. I grabbed the zipper and pulled it open about 2 inches. What came out of that 2-inch gap hit me like something physical. I gagged and stumbled backward on the wet rock and had to catch myself to keep from falling. It was not just a bad smell. It was a smell with weight and specificity, a smell that communicated something specific and unavoidable about what was inside that suitcase without requiring any further investigation. I stepped back and told my friend I could not open it any further. My friend came down to take my place. She was less hesitant than I had been. She grabbed the zipper and pulled it further open. Inside the suitcase were garbage bags, black plastic, multiple bags compressed together and packed in. She found a stick to avoid touching them directly. She poked at one of the bags. Her face changed completely. The energy she had brought down the rocks with her, casual and slightly mocking the standard attitude of someone who is going to be fine because nothing real ever actually happens, drained out in about 1 second. She stepped back. She said we needed to stop. She said she did not know what it was, but we needed to stop touching it, and we needed to call the police right now. We called the police from the pier deck while the camera was still going. What investigators found was not something I'm going to describe in detail. What I will tell you is that the suitcase and additional suitcases found in the same area of the bay over the following days contained human remains. The victims were 2 people who had been tenants in the home of a man named Michael Lee Dudley. He had killed them both and concealed the evidence by dismembering the remains, sealing them in garbage bags, packing those bags into luggage, and throwing the luggage into the bay from close to his home. The remains had drifted in the tidal movement of the bay and settled in the rocks beneath the Alki Beach Pier. Michael Lee Dudley was arrested and charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder. The discovery at the pier was central to what followed in the investigation. A random coordinates app had sent a group of teenagers to a specific location on a specific afternoon in June 2020. And what we found when we got there mattered, not just to us, to the families of the people in those suitcases, to the case against the man who put them there. I think about a few things from that day with more regularity than I would like. I think about the smell, the way it was already there in the air before I understood what it meant, the way my body registered it as wrong before I had any conscious reason to be alarmed. There is something in human biology that recognizes certain smells for what they are at a level below rational thought, and that day I understood why. I also think about what my friend said when she stepped back from the suitcase. She said we should stop before we got involved in something bad. We were already in something bad. We had been in it since we climbed down the rocks. We just did not know it yet. That is the part that has stayed with me. The gap between being inside a situation and understanding that you are. The way those 2 things do not always happen at the same time. The second story. My name is Maya. I am 15 years old when this happens. I want to be upfront about my age because the age is the point. I had a TikTok account. Small, casual, the kind of account a teenager builds because everyone around her is building one. I posted occasionally. Dance videos, mostly the kind of content that was everywhere on the platform at the time. I had maybe 50 likes on my most viewed video. I was not trying to be an influencer. I was just participating in the thing everyone my age was participating in. One evening, a notification appeared telling me that a man I did not know had reacted to one of my videos. I clicked through. He appeared to be in his late 40s, heavy-set, balding, the kind of face that does not belong on a platform that had been built around the content of teenagers. He had made his own video in response to mine, talking about what a good dancer I was, complimenting the video in a way that was enthusiastic and specific. My first instinct was discomfort. My second instinct was to rationalize the discomfort away. The For You page on TikTok sends content to strangers. His video appeared in someone's feed. He reacted. That is what the platform is designed for. I was probably overthinking it. I sent him a message asking why he had reacted and how he found my video. His response was clear and friendly. He explained the algorithm. He said he had been scrolling for hours and my video had appeared in his feed. He said he thought I was talented. He used normal, complete sentences. Nothing about the response tripped any immediate alarm. I left the conversation and went back to what I had been doing. A few hours later, I was getting ready to sleep. My phone buzzed, then buzzed again. 4 more times in quick succession, all from him. He was asking if I was awake. He said he was lonely. He said he hoped I would talk to him, that he did not have many people to talk to. He asked if I would keep him company. I want to be very precise about what that felt like to read as a 15-year-old girl. Not the words themselves, the specific combination of words. A man in his late 40s, my age, which he knew from my profile, the middle of the night. A request for my company phrased in a way that made it sound like something I owed him or could reasonably be asked to provide. I texted a friend about it and did not respond to him. His messages continued arriving while I texted with my friend. He described himself as unattractive and unwanted. He said most people did not like him. He said I was pretty. He used that word multiple times in ways that were clearly directed at me and clearly not casual. Then came the comment about wanting more than just talking, which he immediately tried to frame as a joke, followed by insistence that he really just needed a friend. I typed back telling him my age. 15 years old, I stated it plainly. He sent a selfie of himself shirtless in bed. In response to being told I was 15, I blocked the account. I stayed awake for hours after that, not because I was afraid in an immediate physical sense, because of a feeling that does not have a clean single word attached to it. The feeling of having been looked at in a way you did not choose and cannot now undo. I texted my friends about it, and we went through the stages teenagers go through jokes to reduce the anxiety, dark humor, to put some distance between the thing and how it made us feel, and eventually a quiet acknowledgement that none of us quite knew what to do with it. I fell asleep a few hours before sunrise. When I woke up the next morning, my phone had a row of notifications across every platform I used. Instagram, Twitter, a platform I had not logged into in months. All of them from accounts that contained the word buddy in the username. Established overnight while I was asleep. My TikTok bio contained links to all of my other social accounts. I had put them there because that is what you do. It is standard. It is how you grow across platforms. It is how you let people who find you in one place follow you in another. It had not occurred to me what that looked like as an instruction guide for someone I had just blocked on one platform. He was sending me messages on Instagram now. Long ones. Paragraphs about his loneliness, his need for connection, how much he wanted me specifically to be the one to provide it, and video messages. Videos of himself in bed, the same pose as the selfie, talking into the camera with a directness that I found deeply unsettling and could not fully look away from, even as I understood I should. My older brother came into the kitchen while I was sitting there eating cereal with my phone in my other hand and a look on my face that apparently communicated everything before I said a word. He asked what I was watching. I showed him. He took my phone, went through every message and every video, recorded all of it from his own phone, and handed mine back. He asked for the man's TikTok username. I gave it to him. He said he knew someone who ran a channel that exposed this kind of behavior and he was going to send everything over. What my brother's contact found when he looked into the account was that I was not the first. I was one in a long sequence of teenagers who had received the same pattern of contact from the same account across multiple platforms over multiple years. The same progression in every case: a friendly beginning, a late-night shift in tone, the loneliness narrative, the compliments directed at underage girls, the escalation. The exposure videos that were made accumulated evidence from dozens of teenagers. The account was banned multiple times and returned under variations of the same username each time. Eventually, following what was described as a sting by people who specifically went looking for him, the account disappeared permanently. No criminal charges were filed as far as the public record shows. He claimed in later statements that he had undergone therapy and changed, that his behavior had come from a period of personal difficulty, that he was no longer the person who had done those things. He is somewhere now. The platforms he used to find teenage girls are still running. I removed every linked account from my bio within 24 hours of that morning. Not because a parent told me to or a school counselor ran a presentation, because the specific experience of waking up to a row of notifications from the same person across every platform I used made me understand in a direct and personal way what a linked bio provides to someone who has just been blocked on one platform. It provides a map. 2 stories tonight. One about what a random app led a group of teenagers to find at a beach pier on an ordinary summer afternoon. One about what a standard bio link provided to a man who was already looking for a way in before I had any reason to be looking for him. Neither of us went looking for danger. Jordan and his friends drove to the pier because the app pointed there, and the day was nice. I linked my social accounts in my bio because every teenage creator does that. The remains were already in the rocks before we arrived at the pier. The man with the Buddy username was already on the platform before I posted my first video. Neither situation required seeking anything out. Both arrived through ordinary decisions made on ordinary days. What the pier story and my story have in common is timing. Jordan found what he found because the Randonautica app generated those specific coordinates on that specific afternoon. If the coordinates had been different, if they had gone somewhere else, the case against Michael Lee Dudley might have developed differently or not developed at all. I encountered that man because my video appeared in his feed and I had my other platforms listed publicly. Neither of those things was chosen. Both of them produced consequences nobody was prepared for. I think about what my friend said at the pier. Stop before we get involved in something bad. She was already in something bad. She had been in something bad since she climbed down the rocks. The stop was too late. The involvement had already happened. Pay attention to the smells that are wrong before you can identify why. Pay attention to the messages that arrive in the middle of the night from people who should not have your contact information. Pay attention to the feeling of wrongness that your body registers before your brain has finished deciding whether there is anything to be worried about. Your instincts usually arrive before your reasoning. Jordan's instinct said the smell was wrong before he opened the zipper. Mine said the late-night messages were wrong before I finished reading them. We were both right. Go look at what your public profiles link to tonight. Think about what that provides to someone who is already looking. Then think about what happens when you come home one afternoon and the smell is already in the air before you have any reason to be afraid.